This story is about a fellow who hoaxed a Dogman sighting with a mask he bought on Etsy. I don't know if this is the mask used. The story submitter did not say. I just thought this was a really nice one though, and I found it on Etsy. If you're looking for a good werewolf costume for Halloween, you could do worse than some of these handcrafted ones that people are creating over there. There seem to be a number of them with this kind of a design. I don't know which are worth buying from or not personally. If you do pick up a Dogman mask though, I'd ask that you please not use it in the manner that the person who submitted this story did. Things could have turned out much worse for him than they did. And then, we would never have even heard this story. Which story? The one we call Dogman Interrupted My Dogman Hoax. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I got myself a really good Dogman mask off of Etsy, and since then, my friend and I staged multiple Dogman hoax sightings. The interesting thing is, so far nobody's gone public with any of their Dogman experiences. If a Dogman falls in the forest, but nobody's around to call it into Vic Cundiff, then was that Dogman even really there? I trashed my Dogman costume eventually though, after I ran into an actual Dogman. The whole thing started when I was staying over my cousin's house in Michigan one autumn night. Halloween was coming up and we were talking about our favorite movie monsters and serial killers and stuff like that. My cousin got real serious and started talking about how he believes in the Michigan Dogman as a real thing, not just a story or a character. He said that there was nothing he was more scared about than seeing a Dogman, and yet at the same time, there was nothing more that he wanted to do except see a Dogman. I looked in his eyes and he was a million miles away, looking at a Dogman in his mind. I thought this guy has it really bad, it's like he's in love. And that's when I launched my plan. I would find a really good werewolf costume, and I would convince my cousin that he had finally succeeded in seeing a Dogman. It seemed funny at the time. I got my best friend that we can call Blutarski to help me with my evil plan. Blutarski has his own car, and at the time he was still legally allowed to drive, so he was a perfect accomplice. We went to a Halloween store and they had some pretty great masks, but none that were realistic enough. Also, my cousin had made a big deal about the Michigan Dogman having yellow eyes, and none of the masks in the store looked like that. I was getting discouraged when we overheard strangers saying they were going to look on Etsy before buying anything for Halloween. When Bluto and I looked online, we found a few different Dogman masks that looked better than anything in the stores. The one we got didn't come with light-up eyes, but they were yellow. Bluto was able to wire them up so that the eyes glowed in the dark. Using his phone, he filmed me in the bushes with the mask on, and I have to say it looked pretty freaking scary. For the body, I dug out my late uncle's old ghillies suit that he had for some reason spray-painted brown back before I was born. Maybe that was for his Dogman hoax, I don't really know. Once we had everything all ready, Blutarski drove me out to my cousin's neighborhood one state over. We're from Wisconsin, and he's in Michigan, but my cousin only lived around an hour's drive away from us, at least if we got lucky with the traffic. I knew that my cousin was usually in bed by 10, but there was something on TV he was watching with his parents, and so Bluto and I had to sit there in the bushes in his backyard for over an hour, waiting for him to go to his bedroom. Once he got into bed and started staring at his phone, the trap was all set. I crept over to my cousin's window, which was down on the ground floor. Wearing my Dogman mask, I just leaned on the window and stared in at him. I had the glowing yellow eyes on, and the brown ghillie suit on underneath. My cousin was so lost in his stupid phone that he didn't even look up. I scratched on his window and still got no reaction. I did it again. But my cousin is dead from the neck up when he's looking at social media, that's all I've got to say. I got annoyed and decided to bang on the window once to see if that would get his attention. Well, the glass cracked diagonally across the middle when I banged on the wooden bottom, and it made enough of a noise to finally get my cousin's attention. His eyes got wide, and he backed out of the room, hugging the wall behind him like he was in some corny old silent movie. It was hard for me to hold in my laughter, but as soon as my cousin was out of sight, Blutarski and I beat it to where we had parked his car a few blocks over. I couldn't wait to hear back from my cousin about how the dogman had broken his bedroom window. Except, I never heard anything like that at all back from him. A couple of months later, my family went out to visit his family, and my cousin had moved his bedroom upstairs. I asked him why, and he just avoided the subject. Before I pulled that prank, my cousin was the #1 fan of Dogman, and Dogman was all he wanted to talk about. Since I had given him an actual, or, well, an alleged Dogman experience of his own, he no longer was interested in discussing the topic at all. In fact, he seemed a lot less self-assured about a lot of things, and he offered fewer opinions than ever before. That wasn't really a result that I had considered when we were planning out that prank. I thought it would have a hilarious ending, you know? Instead, things just got weird. I was telling Blutarski about all of this later, talking about how rarely the results of our efforts are anything like we expect them to be. He listened to my bittersweet story, and then he started giggling. I asked him what was so funny, and he said, "You know what would be funny? If we used that Dogman costume to scare my mom." It was like he hadn't been listening to a single word that I said. I was feeling sort of guilty about my cousin. I wasn't thinking it would be a good idea to prank a second person in the same way. Still, when Blutarski starts laughing, it's infectious. It's hard not to go along with him. Now, I refuse to do anything mean to his mom because she's a saint. But Bluto's sister, we can call Belinda, was a school teacher and almost 8 years older than we were. She was married. She went to church on Sundays. She had 2 perfect kids, and she led the perfect life. She knew everything, and she loved to inform you that she did. She wasn't just a school teacher when she was in front of the classroom. She was a school teacher all the time. She especially loved to lecture her brother Bluto, because she had been an only child for almost 8 years when he came along. She never forgave him for that, obviously. One night, when Belinda was over for dinner with Blutarski and his parents, Bluto started talking at the table about cryptids. He did it to annoy Belinda, who was trying not to take the bait. When Bluto and his mom both agreed that Dogman was probably real, Belinda lost it. She went on a long, nasty, loud rant about how cryptids aren't real, and only rubes in cornfields believe in them. Soon the whole family was arguing, and Belinda stormed out of the house, marching toward her car. What she didn't know is that I had been watching the whole thing from outside, and when she left the house, I ran in my Dogman mask and ghillie suit behind a bush near her car. When Belinda reached the point that Bluto and I had previously agreed upon, I ran out from behind that bush. I ran in front of her car to make certain that Belinda saw me. And then I kept on running down the block and around the corner where Bluto's car had been left open for me to hide inside of. I got changed into my normal clothes in his back seat, and then I walked back to the house to tell Bluto about it and to play some video games. Again, like the first prank, nothing ever came of it. Belinda never told any of the family about what she had seen. She didn't ask Bluto if it had been a trick either, so she must have thought it was a real Dogman. If she thought it was fake, she'd have blamed her brother, right? So, for her not to accuse him of the prank meant she never considered that it might not have been a real Dogman. In other words, her entire internal paradigm had to have shifted when she saw me run by, but she refused to admit that she now believed in Dogman. She wouldn't admit to her brother that she had been proven wrong. I mean, reality is important, but pride trumps everything. So Bluto and I were learning strange life lessons from our Dogman pranks, but none of the results were funny, like they are on TV shows with Tracy Morgan or whatever. Part of me started to feel like this was wrong and that we shouldn't pull any more pranks, but by then I had realized that in the dark that mask really could look pretty real. At least if you only saw it for a few seconds, it could leave a lifetime impression on people's minds. The lower jaw would open and close a bit as I moved my own jaw, and the teeth were pretty frightening looking. Whoever did the carving or modeling of the Dogman fangs did an excellent job. I would get the shivers looking at that mask before putting it on. Then, when I had it on, I could look in the mirror and feel genuinely creeped out. I don't know how the mask maker was able to give it the feeling of being alive that he or she gave it. It's not like it was fancy in terms of construction. There were no buttons to push or hydraulics used in the operation or anything out of the ordinary. When you moved your head and jaw in certain ways, though, the mask just came completely to life. It didn't hurt that I would sit in front of the mirror practicing a lot in my room at night. There was a sense of power associated with becoming the Dogman that I had not anticipated, and so quitting it was harder to do than I had expected. Seeing as how there's nothing to stop someone from hauling off and punching you, or worse, if they see what they think is a real-life werewolf, it's really not a safe thing to do. I would not advise anyone to do this ever, unless you're making a movie or something. Too many things can go wrong both for yourself and for those around you. A good case in point for this would be the last time I put on the costume, the time when I ran into an actual Dogman. There's nothing in the world that'll sober you up faster than ending up snout to snout with a Dogman. Blutarski and I decided we had to do one big final werewolf prank. We arranged a reunion of a bunch of us that used to hang out in freshman and sophomore year in high school. 2 of our friends were married and living in Minneapolis, 4 of them were living in Michigan, and so forth. There were 10 people who showed up total, besides me and Bluto. 5 of them were guys, and we let all of them in on the gag. We didn't do that to be sexist against the girls. We did that so that the guys wouldn't punch me in the nose thinking I was a real werewolf or Dogman. So here was the plan. We all met at a central location that we loved, the Highway 18 Outdoor Drive-In Movie Theater. We'd park way in the back by the woods just like old times, and then, once the couples were involved in either watching the movie or else doing what couples do, I would sneak out of the woods dressed as the Dogman and scare them. The signal to the guys in the cars was that I'd tap twice quickly on the back of the car, and that meant to get ready for the scare. Well, the first couple were parked in a Datsun parked away from the others over in the shadows, so that helped me out a lot. I walked up on the dark side furthest from the other cars, and I tapped twice on the rear to signal the boyfriend and keep him from shooting me or whatever. Then I snuck up, crawled up basically, to the window that the girlfriend was sitting next to. All of a sudden, I jumped up, banging on her door. She screamed so loud, I don't know how the others didn't all hear it. She was crying and acting so frantic, I thought she was going to keel over right on the spot. I was laughing so hard, I pulled my mask up to show her it was me, and her fear turned to anger. I ran back into the woods behind the cars, as much to get ready for scare number 2 as to avoid that girl chasing me. The thing is, scare number 2 never happened. I went back into those trees, and I tried to get the second car in my sights and figure out my approach. The way they were parked was different from the first one. I decided to walk back and forth and do some spying, see which couples were watching the movie, and which ones were busy with each other. The thing is, as I was about to walk through the trees to my left, I was met with a deep, growling sound. This stopped me dead in my tracks. What would be hiding in the woods behind the local drive-in movie theater. Besides me. I looked, and I couldn't believe my eyes, because looking right back at me was a Dogman. A real one. As realistic as I thought my costume looked, I realized in 1 second that it was a piece of junk. The real Dogman had a 1.5 to 2 feet height advantage over me. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. His shoulders were way up over my head, and his claw-like hands hung down to below my knees. He was covered in fur, but nothing could hide his muscular and very humanoid build. There was no doubt that this was a male. I can understand why some debunkers try to say that Dogman is nothing but a bear with mange, because his fur was not solid all over. There were areas where you could see through to his skin. However, these were not missing patches of fur. I know this because the placement of fur on his body was symmetrical, like that on a human male. The Dogman's fur was thicker and thinner in the same places that the human male's hair gets thicker or thinner. I do not think that this creature had mange. I think it was just evolving to have less body hair. Its fur-covered head looked very canine, with a long pronounced snout full of gnarly-looking fangs. Its ears were like those of a wolf, but longer. Its eyes were freaky, giving off an intense eye shine like nothing I'd ever witnessed in my life. I tried to make a break past the creature because he was backing me into a corner. He nonchalantly reached one of his impossibly long arms and sort of swatted me backhanded, back into my starting position. He swatted me again to back me up to a large tree trunk. And then, that Dogman moved in close, standing bipedally, on dog legs, directly in front of me. I was so close I could smell him, even through the mask. He sniffed me all over, occasionally, rudely, moving me around so that he could smell the more difficult-to-reach areas. I think he thought I might be a juvenile Dogman or a female, God forbid, I honestly do. And I had no idea what to do. I basically had no options at all concerning what to do. I was going to do what the Dogman wanted me to do. But I was not ravaged by the Dogman on that night. I was saved by arguing young lovers. Yes, the young lady I had scared the daylights out of in that car had found out from her boyfriend that he was in on the gag. She did not see the humor in any of this, and she had dragged him out of the car to yell at him in front of the others. Soon, all the women were in a tizzy, and the Dogman stopped staring at me to stare through the trees at the commotion in the drive-in parking lot. Once the young woman I'd scared started pointing toward the woods, that was it for the Dogman. He split so fast that I didn't see which way he went. I mean that literally. I pulled my mask off and ran into the drive-in wearing my brown ghillie suit, screaming that there was a real Dogman following me. Of course, nobody believed me, but when I jumped into Blutarski's old Heap and told him to drive away fast, he did as I asked. He claims now that he believed me all along about the Dogman, but I think at the time he assumed I was just running away because I got caught. Since then, I've told him this story 1,000,000 times over, so he knows I'm really not kidding, that I really had a sort of a first date with the Dogman in those woods back there. But I gave that Dogman a made-up number because I was not interested in meeting him for a second date. I suppose it served me right, and I'm lucky I got away with only a scare. It could have turned into a deadly situation when Dogman interrupted my Dogman hoax. Trying to think of a rhyme that would work if our executive producer pronounces it Dennis Girk, and I'd better come up with something perky in case he pronounces it Dennis Gurky. Please join me in thanking today's executive producer, Dennis G., who is our newest channel member. That means he gets to see our secret uncensored Dogman stories that we put out each Sunday night. Stories far too wild to ever run on this channel. If you'd like to be as cool as Dennis G, all you have to do is join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com, or else do what Dennis did and click the join link under this or any of our videos. And now, here's our spokes dog Henry Lee Dogman to fill you in on any details I may have left out. Hank? Thanks for watching till the end. If you liked what you saw, please consider clicking like on the video or sharing it with your friends and family that you think might also be interested. If you would like to see more of our work, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon next to the subscribe button so that YouTube will alert you when we put out a new video. To become a channel member and gain access to our special perks, you can click that join link under each of our videos. Another option is to join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. You can join for as little as 99 cents on YouTube or $1.50 at peterbernard.com, and that gains you access to our weekly secret uncensored episodes. If you'd like to see our 21 hours of archives of uncensored Dogman stories, then please join at the $3 level or above. To get to watch our shows in advance of the public, please join at our $10 level. That gets you all the perks. If you join our channel memberships, you need to check our community page here on YouTube in order to get the links to the secret videos and other perks. If you're in the PayPal subscribers club, Peter will email you all the news and links himself. Once joining the PayPal club, which is Peter's homemade club, please give him a chance to see that you've joined and to compose you a personal welcome email, as none of that is automated. But whichever you join, we'll name you an executive producer for the next available episode. Do you have a scary experience that you'd like to share with us? You can email us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or call our Scary Stories voicemail hotline at 804-LA-SCARY. That's 804-537-2279. It's a Google voicemail box, so that means it keeps cutting off after every 3 minutes. If your story is longer than that, please keep calling back and we can piece it together on our end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.